Hello everyone and welcome to One Teacher, One Scientist chat room. Today we have a very special guest with us, a young girl, Soumya Dabriwal, who did her economics from the University of Warwick, UK, went on to being the founder of Bala and then going on to become a TEDx speaker. Soumya is quite an inspiration for the Gen Next, and today we are going to find out what was it that inspired her to walk the path that was not too many children are actually aspiring to. So, hello Soumya, welcome to One Teacher, One Scientist chat room. And it's such a pleasure to have you here. And being in the social development sector, it's not something very usual that children take up. It's usually like medical, engineering, or bankers, or data scientists. So, the entire perspective has shifted from those mundane jobs to these specialized jobs. But you seem to have taken a different path. I mean, a social development sector, and that too in menstrual hygiene. What inspired you to walk this path?
Thank you for having me. First of all, it's so nice to chat with you. You're right. I mean, while growing up, you never think that I'm going to become a specialist in the social space or I'm going to start my own initiative in the social development space. Whenever you're asked a question, what do you want to be when you grow up? The options that you mention are the options that you think about, because those are the things you have exposure to. But what really inspired me or made me kind of think about this path were a lot of volunteering experiences which I took up at university. Definitely was the turning point for me. So since a young age, I'd been involved, in the community development projects in school, etc. But you do that because you're supposed to be doing it. Of course, you feel good about helping people, but it was more like a tick mark that your teachers made you have on your, yearly report, etc. But in college, we actually took the onus of working on projects and developing social sector projects. And that's when I developed a keen interest in this space. So at university, there was a program, I was part of Warwick Volunteers because that was a huge volunteering club or society that was present. And I was very curious about UK being a very developed and forward country. What does volunteering look like over there? Because coming from India, we had a completely different understanding of the community, of volunteering, of what need means. And I was very curious that how do you redefine this need or this volunteering in UK? And I was really surprised. I took on some very interesting projects like de-weeding forests, like cutting down trees which were sucking out extra water from the ground, like developing programs for old age homes, etc. And I realized that there's so much scope in the development space, irrespective of where you are, which country, which sector, which space you look at. If you think about development in a social space, there's so much potential and scope, which was something we were never aware about or told about in school, etc. So for me, the turning point was when I went to Africa, Ghana, to teach math and English. And I discovered my passion of being within the community, loving every minute that I spent with, on ground in the field, learning about lifestyles, problems, etc. And that's what motivated me to take up development economics and then pursue the field.
Oh, very nice. But tell me this, Soumya, don't you think somewhere in school, children need to do these mentorship programs? Children need to probably do community service right from the beginning so that it doesn't become like something to be ticked off for your resume or for getting into a good university, but it actually gets integrated within a child while he's growing up. So typically I've seen that usually it's in senior school when the counselors and everybody starts saying, okay, you need to do some community program so that you can get into a good university if you've done a community outreach program. But somewhere for children to develop that empathy, for children to develop those like understanding the real world context and the real world issues. Don't you think such programs should be introduced, say, in junior school? Like right from junior school, if children are getting into, say, plantation drives, say, going and reading to old age homes, simple things like this, if they can begin, how do you think it would change the landscape of thinking in these children?
I think it can play a crucial role in the kind of shaping your perspective of the world. I honestly believe that I was living in a bubble. Although, my mother played a huge role, I think parents can have a huge impact on the conditioning that you have. So my mother was constantly volunteering in a slum after school near our house over here. And whenever I had time, I would accompany her, see her with the students, see that entire, all the teachers and all the volunteers over there, and pick up bits and pieces. Again, I lacked a very coherent understanding of what was going on and why help was required, because I wasn't told in very clear terms. But this is why we need to help them. This is the resources that they don't have. This is the reason that they have subpar education, but you do have quality education, etc. These were missing gaps, etc. But nonetheless, that exposure to this space at an early age develops a little bit of a perspective, bends you towards that space, helps you understand it better. The reason why I joined Warwick Volunteers when I was in the UK was because I had some experience or some sort of an exposure to the social space and the community space here in India, and I wanted to draw a comparison. So that can play a huge role at an early age. I wish as a student I was told, that you are doing this project because these are the reasons why you are in a much more privileged position than a lot of others, and you can use your privilege as a responsibility and help out those in need, right? And like today on our team, we've got people who studied at Cornell, who went to LSR, who've done MBA programs from the best universities and their undergraduate degrees from the best universities across the world. The social space is such a diverse field where every skill, you could be an engineer, you could be a data analyst, you could be an MBA. All of those skills can be used together. But we never knew this in school. It was an exploration for us. And I wish we were told earlier and we could have, developed more skills or honed our perspective according to that.
100%. How do you look at the scope of mentorship at Bala?
Oh, 100%. There's so many ideas that people have, like young students have. We've had a couple of young children or school students join us. We've only had 2 or 3 so far. But when they come in, they come with such a fresh perspective. They ask so many questions which are so important. And simultaneously, they also learn a lot about how an organization is run, how more than just, of course, there's a lot of community exposure, but also how do you strategically think about working in the community? Not just blatantly, okay, let's distribute food because we want to do some good, or let's just sit and teach some math. That's not solving any problems. So here they actually think about strategic problem solving, etc., which becomes a great tool for them. And for us, it's such a wonderful experience to get a fresher perspective, a younger perspective into the organization. So we're very happy to have a mentorship scheme or a buddy scheme at Bala.
Yeah, that would be so nice, because children do need people from outside to, kind of pull them out of their structured learning and bring a newer perspective to their education program. Like you've been mentioning that you were so curious about, getting perspective of what social work would be like in UK and compare it to India. So somewhere, do you think curiosity was your driving force?
I mean, definitely. I was extremely curious. Curiosity is definitely a driving force, but also it can't be just empty curiosity. You need to have some sort of a base. So I think, a program like this mentorship program or some community exposure in the beginning would then give some sort of a shape to that curiosity. Otherwise, it's a very vague sort of a plunge into an unknown space.
Yeah, it can be a very wide, open-ended space where children can get lost. So yes,
there has to be.
Yes, so curiosity blended with a mentorship program can help children start off young and maybe, like build perspectives around their passions and discover their passions.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. And do you wish you had done all this in school earlier?
I so hope, I so wish that we had. And not just this, I also feel like, as you mentioned right in the beginning, we have such a narrow opinion about career. Yeah. And if you don't make it into this, you're considered not to have done so well in life. You have to make it in these particular fields, and then you qualify as a smart person or as an accomplished or a successful person, which I think we need to distort that sort of the lines around the narrow field and get a little bit of an exposure to this is all that exists in the world, and you could pursue any of these things. And I wish that happened in school, that they told us that beyond these subjects, beyond being a banker, you can also think about what it's like to be in the social space, or what it's like to be an entrepreneur in any like all of these diverse fields that are available to us right now.
Yeah,
that would.
So somewhere we need to break that barrier of a 10 on 10, and if a child has not got a 10 on 10, he's a failure. Because I think everybody has a space under the sun, and schools as well as teachers, parents, everybody need to understand that every child will make it, and every child is born with that natural intelligence.
Absolutely. Like, I've got a friend who didn't do very well in school and took up the camera. He's making such important documentaries about important issues which have been unaddressed, which need attention, etc. And now, his family is appreciating the work that he's doing. His family is so proud of the work that he's done. And in school, he was always, kind of told off for not doing too well, didn't score much, etc. So that's why we really, really need to appreciate diversity in a student's or a child's abilities. Yes. And that's where we lack slightly, I think, in our education sector.
Yes, very well pointed out, Soumya. And I think we as educationists need to do a lot of thinking and help the child discover his own innate potential and his own passions. Right?
100%.
Thank you so much, Soumya, for being with us today and sharing your insights. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you very much.